G'day everyone and welcome to this week's edition of the Melbourne Punters Show. As usual, I'm joined by Darren Potter,
Jockey, Dan,
and returning guests, Danny Kelly and Racetrack Ralphie.
Thank you very much. And I got a bit of feedback last time that a bit narky, bit
Narc Central?
From Narc Central?
From Narc Central, yeah. So we want to start off with a good positive. I think we're going to get behind a good young man who's had his opportunity. I know you're a big fan, I'm not sure about you, Potts, and I know seen some love that you've sent out for him on Twitter. Adam Olszanski. Shane Anderson's finished up a racing head, so well done. Adam's got the main gig. Now host of racing.com. He's done the hard yards, he knows his stuff backwards. Good young fella. Congratulations, Adam Olszanski.
What are you talking about?
He's host of racing head, isn't he?
No, not quite, mate. He's still back calling the Wollemi Cup meeting this weekend.
Michael Felgate, mate. He got the gig.
What?
I listened to him this morning. He's interviewed Terry Bailey for 45 minutes this morning, but yeah, I was surprised Adam got looked after.
This time last year, I was in the summer months when Shane was on holidays. Adam was filling in, did a fantastic job. I did some work with. Knows his stuff, but
Yeah.
so he's got the gig and he's in on holidays and Michael's filling in until Adam gets there.
No, Adam must be busy just doing correct way on the Sunday morning review show, but
if we're going to do this, can we be fair to... Surely Adam's the host.
well, he should.
Phil Gates the host.
Doesn't that get back to what we spoke about last week, Potts, with Greg Nichols' comments about the abysmal level of racing journalism?
was that like a bit of a drive by Michael Felgate?
He's been all right so far, Potts, but like as you say, Adamo's been...
I don't know how Adam's been passed over, but...
No, that's my point. That's my point, and I just assumed that he's got the job, so it's
I listened to the jury duty show, so they had a bit of a go, which is good to see.
Yeah.
So as long as they keep that up...
What would you consider being a bit of a go? Because at the moment in Victorian racing there's some serious questions and topics that need sort of touched upon. What did you consider?
Well, they discussed the poisonous relationship between vets and trainers. Mm-hmm. And they used Terry Henderson's comments at the Asian Racing Conference as a lead into that, and they got into it a bit.
Oh, so trainers and vets, that's pretty in to me. That's not punters.
Yeah, I think that's an important subject for the industry. I think it's a really important subject. Anyway, personally, that's because it's a subject I'm interested in. They talked about... They talked about minimum bet rules yesterday, was that last week?
No, that was last week. They spoke about a little bit about the Asian Racing Conference, and Matt Stewart followed up on his article that was in the paper about Greg Nichols' comments, which for mine aren't wide of the mark, because we have racing. I think we have racing reporters, but I don't think we have racing investigative journalists like we used to have.
Was there an irony? Now tell me, because I'm barracked for a certain way of the way I look at the world, and I accept that. Narc Central. Was there an irony that other people saw, that I saw, that on Saturday Matt complained that Greg Nichols, even though he didn't say Greg Nichols, he said like a mahogany desk, but if you're going to have a go at someone, Matt, you may as well name him. Greg Nichols had a crack at the standard of racing journalism.
Yes.
And that was his full column on Saturday.
Yeah.
And on Sunday, Andrew Rule in the news section actually did the article that everyone's talking about, which is Terry Bailey. So wouldn't you actually think that section should be in the sports section if you're going to say that the standard of journalism is actually good rather than abysmal?
You would have thought so.
What are we talking about?
Well, Andrew Rule's a proper journalist. He has been forever, hasn't he?
That's Greg Nichols' point.
That's the point, isn't it? So if that's the point, I'm on board with it.
There you go.
So,
I don't think anyone's saying that like Matt's doing a bad job at what he's doing, but the thing is, he's not a Nick McKenzie. He's not an investigative journalist. He's just a racing reporter, which is fine. He's reporting the facts of what happens, and he does a few of those 360 pieces. Which, like, to be fair, the only time I sort of see the paper now is if I pull up at Macca's to get a sausage and egg McMuffin and I'm there for 30 seconds to thumb through it, or someone retweets it, because like I wouldn't spend the $1.50 on buying the paper anymore. It's not worth it.
Just a bit of, this is how I used to play suburban footy. I'd start a fight.
And run.
Let it go.
Just back to Michael Felgate, I listened to him this morning, so I'm happy to... I think he's going to do a good job. He asked, as far as punters, he said to Terry Bailey, he said, do you miss betting? Do you get an itch to bet? And he said, typical Terry Stewart, no, it doesn't interest me, blah, blah. So we said, okay, then how do you see a race through the eyes of, and make good decisions on behalf of punters?
Yeah.
Was his follow-up question, which I thought, okay, this is... So, and Terry answered with a straight bet as he would, but I thought it was encouraging that Michael was asking those questions second day in the job.
The next follow-up question would be, when are you going to change the method and thinking of thinking, well, I suppose we're going to get to all this stuff like about the tennis, that racing's integrity problem is in the lab. Because racing's integrity problem, like all sports integrity problem, actually isn't in the lab. Integrity problem in sport in 2016 is what happens on field, on track, on court, and at the moment the balance is wrong.
Well, there was... Yeah, well it is, but...
One costed a lot of money,
the
lab. One doesn't cost, it just costs a lot of questions.
And time. But like, that's something that...
The integrity issues are in betting.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, good. I'm glad that's what you're saying, because that's the answer.
Absolutely what I'm saying.
I mean, it shows up in betting
Yeah.
all the time. Sometimes it's more prominent than others.
Yeah.
But, you know, the clues are always there.
Flemington Saturday, boys. Narc Central was out again saying that the track wasn't much chop in a few things, but like...
Nick Kent got on there after race 1, so it's better out in the middle, down the lanes.
Yep.
So what they all do?
Being Mellon copped 8 meetings, was trying to steer one there in race 3, copped his right, completely overdid it, but the horse won the race, but he would have won wherever he steered it in the straight anyway. It's the fastest horse in that race.
Anyone who walked the track said in the straight races, they'll come up that lane, 5 metres in from the outside rail, but he said... They all said that you probably, on the circle races, it's too far to get out there.
Sheep, all right. Yeah.
And then, didn't Damien Lane come back after he rode Heatherly and said, well, I didn't really have a plan, I was just like following them.
Well, in fairness to what he actually said was, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Yeah. So I was better off going where people thought was the best ground, rather than, I didn't think there would have been a penalty, but had I got beaten, and that's I understand that logic. How did you think the track would play at the start of the day compared to how it did play in your... Because I think this is what we need to let people know, that if you do your form properly, all of us, what you don't want is surprises.
Yeah.
Now, I wasn't surprised by the way the track...
No, neither was I.
No.
Bulls?
No.
I thought you...
And it didn't affect the result. You look through the results, most of the day the fastest horses won, best backed horses ran well and won. Yeah. Hasn't affected results, the track's players has played. You know, the gurus have thought it could play like that. It has.
I was just a little bit surprised you could make up more ground on the circle. It looked to me like a surface where you would be able to make up a little bit of ground, but it was hard. But it wasn't impossible, it was just hard, that's all. And the tempos didn't lend itself to that, to be honest.
But that one goes with the other, doesn't it? And this is what people have to understand. That, I mean, so in Flemington, communication was spot on.
Yeah.
He hasn't elevated wide. Now, if you don't elevate wide at Flemington, the track dries out much firmer out wide, and the wide lanes come in play that, as you say, take a while to get to, except if the rail's out 9 metres, which it was.
Yeah.
So if the rail's out, you're not taking long to get out there. So the wide lanes are going to be in play. The second part of that is, if it's not hard up against the fence isn't ideal, what does it do? It takes the incentive out of leading quickly. So
a lot of slow paces on the weekend, wasn't it? Especially early in the day.
So if incentives are taken away from leading quickly, it's going to be up and off. You know, up on the speed, but off the rail, and that's where the leaders come from. But some of the hysteria of Michelle Payne's ride was perfect. Now, if you look at the actual lanes where winners came, like Dan Zephyr, the new boy ran second, a couple others, it was a bit off the fence, and the horse hung in a little bit.
Laid in as well, yeah.
Laid in a little bit, but for speed, and we praised it last time. Ultimately, it was just a very, very strong race.
Well, what I'd like to see the industry...
How much was criticised.
No, I don't agree with you, Ralph. I don't think Rob was perfect. It was perfect to the 600. She was full on the winner.
Yeah.
That horse is having its third run.
Yeah.
It needed to be taken to the outside of the winner.
But it was hanging in.
Well, it wasn't hanging at that stage. She chose... It hung in after she pulled the whip.
Right.
Okay? She was steering it.
Yeah.
She had a choice to go inside or out. She chose to go inside and then pull the whip, and then it hung in away from the whip. Okay? And she couldn't pull the whip through to her other hand. I would say her ride was poor. That's like from the home turn, it was poor. The horse, it cost the horse maybe a length or two, right? The horse didn't turn up on the day. If she was going to ride that horse well, which she did last start, without a doubt, she would have gone to the outside of King's Command.
It's repeated its last, what it did last start.
I don't know why
it's held its last start.
Why doesn't turn up on the day?
No, I don't agree with that. Not if you take a line through Nikoko and the lack of things different was it didn't run the distance on Friday night. But
No, I'm just
it's
going through the time.
it's a difference of opinion. My opinion is that she rode the horse well following the winner till the turn. She made a bad decision in steering it back to the inside of horses in the home straight. When that horse, as a young horse, in both of its runs, had only hit top gear when it was outside horses. It was a really strange decision to send an inexperienced horse like that to try and get it to go through a field.
So perhaps even what your point of view is. But
Yeah.
your point of view is more it cost it momentum and a different experience as
Yes,
opposed to
yeah.
saying that the fence was totally off skew.
I'm not saying that the fence being off was the problem.
Yeah.
No, not
Absolutely,
at all. I'm saying that steering the inside, then when it shied away from the whip, to keep hitting with the whip with that hand was pretty strange, I thought.
Right.
What I'd like to see as an industry is that if we could somehow orchestrate to get sort of half an inch of rain each Wednesday, which means that no machinery goes over the track for 3 days before a meeting and it's naturally watered. If we could manage that, I think we'd be going really, really well. It's just a little bit tricky to implement though.
But isn't the starting point to not worry about the hysteria of having a firm track in the first place? And then we're not putting pressure on these curators, because here's a fact. We argue about different things as we just have, but here's a fact. The summer racing over that New Year period, it was January 1 and 2, those tracks were much firmer than Caulfield Guineas Day. It's just clear in the figures, we've all seen.
Yeah.
It was much firmer. Did any horses break down? No. So in other words, all the hysteria that racing dragged itself through the controversy, firm tracks are fine. So let the tracks be firm, let winners and the fastest horses win, to use your line.
Well,
Results.
that's all we
I
want.
ran pretty straight.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I had no problem with the track on Saturday. The track was absolutely fine. I just want to cop to being wrong about Bullpit. He not only repeated his last rating, but he improved it. So
Likes running fast in a straight line on his home track.
Yeah.
that was a big run.
Could
That was
I?
a big run. And the one problem I've got with Saturday is the betting action around the race that Dan Zephyr won. He was backed very heavily late, and the new boy was well backed. And I just can't understand the poor runs of so many horses behind them. There were some really bad runs in that race, and either Dan Zephyr's ready to win a group race, or there's 6 horses in that race that ran well below expectations. So that's the sort of thing that I say I'd like stewards to explain these things, because I can't understand the runs of it. Canvas is not one. I don't really care about Canvas's run. I can understand that.
Oh, good.
There was other runs in that race that are just way below those horses' form, and it was just it's a race that I'm having trouble getting my head around.
But
they ran quick time, so I'm not.
yes. Well, I'll put one thing on the table that I think if you look at the first 2, and they ran quick time, as no one argues, they were both rock hard fit.
Yeah.
So that type of day, with them getting off the fence, no, what I'm saying is
Well,
that busted open a lot of them who were early in the prep.
It did, and it looked to me like the robots targeted the map.
Yeah.
You know, they found the 2 fit
On paces.
on-paces with the big weight drops
Yeah.
and the jockey pluses, you know, and they clearly, what you said, they were very well backed, weren't they?
Yeah.
But
Is
it's
this-
Well, so that's a really good explanation. I have no problem with that. There's some other horses in that race that.
But you backed over something, I think, too quickly.
How did for instance, there's a 201 shot in that race that beat a bunch of them home. The David Hayes trained horse.
Oh, no, hang on.
Old Burns.
Old Burns. I mean,
He said 3 or 4 the
But-
did
but-
he?
yeah, and he beat too many horses home.
No, but did you do his jump outs?
No,
It's worth having a look at, because Dan said, I looked at him and I go, no, you've had 550. He was jumping out unbelievably. So the horse actually,
Yeah,
well,
maybe
3
there's a
years
reason
ago,
for
he
you
had that
break.
figure. But
First up run tells the story.
but one thing about older horses, I reckon, when they've had a lot of time off, if a good stable keeps them, I reckon it's almost something to say, well, they hardly need to fill a box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe this old boy's going pretty good, and maybe jumps and all that. But anyway, as you said, he kept going. But I reckon you backed over something there about the explanation, which does shit me a bit when it comes to with Canvas. I say no worries, I got it wrong. End of prep run. That's why it drifted out. When it won the first time at Sandown, I personally think it's got a stakes class potential in it, and its next run was there. I assumed it would bounce. Instead, all it did was follow its trend line.
Yeah.
So no worries.
Yeah.
But that is a type of thing when people who don't follow racing as deeply as us, which is most people, and we want more people to learn, then the stewards can say, at the moment, I guarantee if you looked it up, because I had a quick look, Canvas no open melodies. But if you're a punter, and if you took the 230 and you heard everyone declare it Saturday morning, and then you see it out to 270 on Betfair, you're going, oh, the game's rigged. You know, and that does happen. Like how often do we have to defend the game? No, but that's what I say. All the stewards have to do is say, we asked Mr. Weir why he thought the late betting drift, and he said, well, actually, we thought, no, but that's what I'm saying. So by documenting the question and answer, it's nothing against Darren Weir. It's a fantastic explanation.
Well, I read the stewards report expecting to see either Craig Williams or Darren Weir say end of prep.
There you go.
And it wasn't there. It just said vet no ab.
And that's what we need. We need as an industry because we can explain it.
Well, just on that horse, the old boss Mark Reed had a terrific theory, and which helps me a lot on horses in their first prep with the lighter constitutions that can't take a lot of tough gut busting racing. They had even though he'd won, he'd had some pretty tough runs. And there's another theory, the fifth run first prep and all this. So he was of tough runs, fifth run into a first prep. And he hasn't coped with it, you know.
Yeah, it was all too much.
Yeah, it was all too much. So that's straight away when I saw that, straight away. And I see it a lot with horses. When I back a lot of horses early in their careers, and they have a tough run, and they just can't come back off it, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas the horse who's had the soft run, like I think Ballina Clash ran behind him at Sandown.
Yeah.
Well, he went to Pakenham the other day and had a dead set trot and canter. And was able to win because that was the case.
Yeah, bad with the right behind him.
Yeah, it was absolutely quadruple slow pace and just sprint it home 400. So in that scenario, they can get away with it, you know. But anyway, that's the theory on that.
No, absolutely. And so when we last did this, and you mentioned some of Weir's drifters at Flemington, I wasn't involved. Self-interest. So I didn't know. I wasn't quite with you.
Yeah.
Then come Australia Day, and also then I was with Kraken.
Yeah.
Savage drift, confetti in the pocket, and the same with Camders. And I thought, hang on, so right, let's get back to what you said. I respect what you say. So just on the day I was with it. So, and ultimately, what Kraken and Camders had in common was monster peak, expectation of return to the peak. Guess what? They didn't.
Yeah.
And you've got to cop that as a punter. So to me, that's still not a bad thing. That with market expectations, what that is also is market intelligence, crowd wisdom. And saying that no, that actually hasn't really come through with where he put the blinkers on Kraken to hope to get it to return to Moonee Valley, and the market said, well, it was probably a scrap week in the track and he paraded like shit. And,
how did you handle old mate Star Stealer on doing the form and I would have tortured you?
Honestly, if Saputo had been scratched at the barriers,
yes,
would run favourite.
It would have run favourite. I mean, like honestly, turn it. I mean, when there was late money for it, I had half a unit on it just so I didn't go mad. So like,
it was interesting listening to him on the radio Saturday morning, and this is why he's the great DK Weir. I was asked about Star Stealer, and he said, "Oh, that horse." He said he went average at Moonee Valley, went terrible last start. So I've got him up here. He swapped him from the Warrnambool stable to the Ballarat stable with me. I've schooled him, thrown the tongue tie on him. So expected some improvement. He said, I don't know. Well, he got beaten 4.5.
Yeah.
But I reckon he might, just knowing his form and knowing how he thinks, if they keep going with him, he might go to have a freshen up and might turn up at the Swan Hill Carnival, where he's won 2 races in the flat knacker or whatever they have there, the sprint race, the 975. He might turn up there. That might be his go, you know.
Yeah,
fresh,
something like that.
Fresh first up, 975.
You just reminded me of a little request I had from Vince Accardi. I was talking to him, and he's watched our previous show. You mentioned Bullpit. He wanted to make that point that at Moonee Valley, first 800 was stakes class, Group 3 class speed. And then he ended up backing Piccolo Mist. Was I meant to say that, Vince? If I wasn't, I'm sorry. But so both those horses then won their next starts off a much more moderate tempo, but the kids both rode them and just drove each other mad. But it's Bullpit, of course, another horse that has improved.
We've sort of walked into something I want to discuss a bit with the Ballina Clash race at Pakenham. If we got any jockeys that watch us, I don't know if we have, or jockey managers, I just want to say, if you're riding the best horse in the race, you've got a responsibility to yourself, to your owners, to the punters, to everyone, that your best chance of winning that race is to make it a test.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes you're on a back marker and there's just nothing you can do about it. Within reason, you can still make a mid-race move if they're going incredibly slowly or whatever. But in that race at Pakenham, Ben Mellon was on Mahoney. He was riding to instructions, so I don't want to throw Ben Mellon under the bus, right? The stable, why you wanted to take a sit in that race is beyond me. But he was instructed to take a sit, then he had to knock half the field over to try and extricate him from the position that he was instructed to ride the horse in. They went 25 lengths below average, and he was certainly beaten. Then he comes out and races on a decent speed at Flemington on Saturday, and runs a rating that would have won the Pakenham race by 5 lengths. So, just generally speaking, the jockeys, if you're on the horse that's the best horse in the race, your best chance of winning is to make the race a test. You will get rid of a lot of the opposition by doing that.
I reckon example 1A, and he not one to Pot Ollie, was second bullet on.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a perfect example.
He's the fastest horse, but he's been dictated to by Star Rolling about how quick he's going. He's the best horse over 2,000, but he's not over 600. He was out sprinted like that.
Yeah.
All it was.
When I reviewed that race, when I reviewed it, not at the time I was watching, but when I reviewed it, I thought, Ollie, why didn't you go to the front here? You
happens all the time.
Let a lot of horses in this race.
I can't remember what Mark's pillar was about sitting outside the lead, but it was no good, I don't think, because you dictated too.
Was that the Gary Clark one where if you were half length, you were sitting on the outside but you were just in front, it was like, fuck, let's go, you just never win.
All the time to me, all the time. I'm on these fast horses out of fast maidens, 1,000 metre maidens, they get to 1,200, then they want to sit up out, something kicks up, and they want to sit outside the leader in a slow pace 1,200, and just get out sprinted over 400 and they get beat.
And if you want to learn, the second bullet is such a good learning thing, and in this case, Dan's criticised the best. And I feel like, it was the bloke in Life of Brian when he didn't say Jehovah for about 3 years, and then they chucked rocks at him because he said Jehovah. But I feel like they're criticising Ollie. But in this case, you're 100% right. And what we got here is 3 consecutive 2,000 metre Flemington races. Newsday was a bit of a firmer track than the other two, but we've still got apples to apples. And Mellon rode him fast, and then Ollie rode him.
Well, he's dragged along by Jack and Obey that day.
Yeah.
Jack and Obey's a good strong one pacer.
Yeah.
But then Ollie went to the front, but actually
front.
went much slower than New Year's Day and bolted him.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he ran fast for the last 1,000. That's the point. Like, he stretched them out.
It's a test.
What I'm saying is, what makes the best make a mistake?
Yeah.
Right? Because you've got to ask these questions. And ultimately, he's been beaten this much, but there's a lovely phrase that I know, I'm sure you've heard it, confirmation bias. In other words, when you get away with doing something the wrong way, we'll get the Tashby, not Yulon Baby later, you think that's the right thing to do. So he went much slower than Mellon did in winning, and it bolted in. So you thought, well, this horse can just cruise along and then kick away. And that ultimately brought him undone on Saturday because it wasn't the right thing to do. He was all primed to do a springboard back instead.
Even if he held, what he'd been doing, he would.
Well, I think more favourites get beaten by jockeys being cute than anything else.
And from ignorant owners telling jockeys what to do and thinking that you have to get all important cover.
If you're on the favourite, you're far better off
just busting them open.
Testing it. You will run second sometimes, right? Sometimes you'll run second, but you'll win way more races than you will by being cute. Sorry, Juppy, you were going to say something?
No, well, the other thing I want to follow up with that race, like, I think he should have nearly been fined for a frivolous protest. Because there was very, very little...
Thrown out in record time, wasn't
it?
Yeah.
The protest was just
they are nearly every second one. Those.
I mean, if that protest had any merit, which it didn't, and a box seater will never win another race. You know what I mean? Like, that's how you get it. I mean, that's just you see that race after race.
I'm not sticking up for him here, but isn't it up to the jockeys to ask the question on the off chance the stewards are stupid enough to uphold it?
Yeah, but also on the other side of that, Ralph, is that the steward should have gone, this is completely frivolous. Even if it's just a couple of hundred, which is... and there was one...
Friday.
Yeah, there was one process that was thrown out quicker than that.
Well, that was very funny because TB, there was old mate Bryce, teed off at the stewards pre-race and give him a good pay, right, a real good pay.
He cooked him.
And his horse was on the one-day backup, as M. Carson swinging off and all that, he hit the front and Reese rolled it right in and ducked in Wheeler, old mate, and sort of give it a brush on the line, you know.
Yeah.
So protesting was people are tweeting TV. Make sure the cameras are in there. We want to see old mate Bryce going nuts. What the stewards do. So I said we can't do that. But meanwhile, Terry and Warren analysed everything and they had it upheld. They said upheld.
You could have taken.
And then as soon as they said upheld, when they said upheld, dismissed.
What? It was like they hadn't even seen the second lot of replays of the head-ons before the thing was dismissed already. Guys, we can go home.
Yeah.
It was like, obviously they just didn't want a bar of him in the stewards room, but yes, when you said that was record time, no, the one the day before was record time.
He's one bloke, he's not scared to say anything, Beast Stanaway. He's mad.
Good for racing.
MAD.
Didn't you want to discuss the Yulon Baby?
Well, I did, because now I've got...
But before we do that, can we go back?
Yes.
Can we get Bryce Stanaway to host racing again?
Just a special guest, something.
People
need to see more of Bryce.
Yes, he should have his own show. Yulon Baby's race.
Well, now I've got another one, and it just happens to be the same track and distance from the United States at Moonee Valley.
Yep.
Where a horse was tactically given no possible winning chance mathematically. Now I don't suggest anything nefarious went on, but it was given no possible mathematical winning chance. Now, this is where I ended up having a crack at myself afterwards. I found this book, I've got the audio book, I found myself on the road a bit, called Super Forecasting. If you can find it, it's a cracker, by Dan Gardner and Philip Tetlock. Anyway, cut a long story short, don't assume that people have any fucking brains.
Well,
so, because...
You learn that by being out on the road, Ralph.
No, so in this case, again, the confirmation bias, Yulong Baby, and this is my own fault, because I send out best and worst rides on Twitter every Monday, and I sent out, when it won, worst ride of the day, in the worst rides, Yulong Baby. It was fucking slaughtered, it was too far back for no reason, it's a good stayer, all important cover, got in all sorts of trouble, gets up. So from barrier 1, I look at the field and think, well, if you've got any tactical knowledge, you will not waste the barrier, possibly even lead, because there's no pace nor talent in the race. Dominate the race and own it. It's Moonee Valley instead of Caulfield. Rails out 3, don't fuck around, go out the back. Michael D clearly was told, you ride this quiet.
Yeah.
As to its pattern. What's its pattern?
But not to its speed.
What's its pattern? It's
talent.
never been forward in its life, mate.
Not to its talent, well, who cares?
Well, where'd you have it, Matt?
No, I
Back on the fence?
I don't remember where it was.
Yeah. So the other guys I've spoken to, I think you got the map wrong.
The problem
I'm
is,
saying
in that
that, I'm
race,
saying
Ralph,
that.
is that Yellen is a very good beginner. And she was always going to cross in front of Yellen Baby. So I don't think they could have got in front of Yellen, and Yellen was never going to
pull it out. But
No, Yellen jumps too quick.
In the end, I'm saying
it's a short run to the turn.
It's totally conceded back to last, but I'm saying it's my fault because all I do is look at figures, don't listen to interviews or anything like that. And I thought, well, you've got the ability to, and the pace and the speed and the talent to have yourself third defence. And there's no speed or talent in this race, so there's no need for you to get back. But because it got back and won, I should have worked out. That's what I'm saying. It's my fault. Probably. You're investing, it's your money, but
That's how you learn, mate. That's how you learn.
That's
You
right.
only learn by doing your corner.
So I should have thought, they're going to get this tactics fucking wrong, and in the end, the money came from monograms, so some very smart people
Which
got it right.
I know they were, and they were backing it because it was going forward with the good jock with the favourite Matt back on the fence.
Yeah.
And,
That's a perfect race for those blokes to get involved in.
and another more famous jock, that same track and distance, in a more famous race, I don't think Bart Cummings wanted Glenn Boss to lead on So You Think in the first of his Cox plates. He didn't. And he would never have ridden for him again if he had got beaten. But dancing on the same show. If you're on the best horse, find out if you're on the best horse. Doesn't matter what the stage is, good or bad. We were talking about a Kilmore race we were blowing up at yesterday.
That's a great example, Ralph. Yes, right. You remind me of a great example. So the following start, it ran in the Emirates, right?
Yeah.
And he led, and he turned the race into a test, and he got beat by a lightweight horse that just produced a real peak. Unfortunately, he got beat that day. But I'm saying you win a lot more races like that than you lose. Particularly when the horse, like in those big races, you tend to find talented horses, so you can get knocked off. But in the run-of-the-mill meat and potatoes of racing, you don't normally find an All-American that just produces one out of the box.
One out of the box.
And how often, in let's say 10, 15 years, Sydney and Melbourne, have we heard stables and owners sooking up, oh, Moody's got a soft lead, or in Sydney, oh, Waterhouse got a soft lead. Here's an idea. Put yours on the fucking screen and find out if it's good enough like they do. Because, you know what, they go alright at it. Yeah. It's pretty simple.
Just one other thing I wanted to... Oh, have you got something more?
No, just one last thing. What was wrong? That horse
Which is
had a low draw, mate. Low draw.
No draw, no good.
Look at baby. Short odds, low draw.
Actually, that's a great point. So I could understand exactly where you're coming from if it had drawn wide. I think the inside draw prevented happening what you were hoping, or what you thought could happen.
Maybe it's a double shot. Not only did it prevent it, but it also got in their mind, beautiful, wheels do nothing.
Yeah, we'll do nothing.
Where if they were drawn wide, they go, oh, we better try something.
So if the draw's outside Yellen's such a good beginner, just springs out of the gates. As soon as they restrain on Yellen, which are always going to do, it could just go on boom, straight across and potentially led, which is basically what Monogram did. Yeah. And I opposed Monogram that day and felt stupid after the race because after the race, it just all looked so obvious. And you think, what was I doing there? You know, like Yellen was finished and Yellen Baby mapped awfully. But anyway.
One other thing to wrap up the weekend, boys, the sprint race in Sydney with our boy Malachi winning. From about 9 o'clock onwards, the bookies managed to bet about 70%, which was good.
Something for the customers.
Like we say that we've been talking about the Weir stable because, as you say, there's no. You said this the other day, and we've been saying it for a while that there's no unders god with that stable.
Yeah.
It turns out with the Hawk stable there was an unders god because it was $1.70 in the morning, and you could have $3.20 by the time they jumped.
Well, they back solicit. Just one went like that, one went like that. That's how the betting went.
Yeah, and it was.
The
So
robot.
hang on, as we just were saying before, why?
Well,
Why did the market move the way it did?
I think it was because of the jump out that it had early in the week.
Malachi?
Yeah, it had a jump out early in the week where it half missed the start. I don't know whether it slipped or what, but it appeared to go appallingly.
Yeah.
The vet looked after it straight away, and the vet said, "I've never seen a horse look better after a jump out. It's $1 million. It's ready to go." And then, of course, it comes out and gets the wetter track, and it comes out and just brained it.
I think there are a lot of factors. I mean, I didn't do the form for that race. I actually ended up backing out by Malachi, which was the only bet I had in Sydney all day because it just looked too good to be true, but not for a lot. I had a very small bet. But it's off a bleed.
Yeah.
So a lot of the pros are automatically going to be hesitant there. And
Sorry, hesitant?
yeah,
Really? Because I mean, there's
There was a theory.
there's a theory.
Yeah.
I know.
There's a theory that they bounce
be,
off bleeds. But
they're going to be
you see
careful.
it and you say, I'm going to launch into this at even money and a chance to bleed on me.
Yeah.
You know?
what could go wrong?
So the alternative, the natural alternative, ended up being solicit, and all the big pros found it, and it got a lot of momentum.
Then it was the
and once
theory.
the momentum's going, it's just very hard to stop. And
Have we? Well, just because it sort of leads one leads to the other here, and I think one. If we're going to talk about the jump outs.
Yeah.
Headwater. Converse. Now I didn't play in the race, but
Yeah.
I was. So I don't know if I'm happy or sad that I read it right and started playing the race. But with Headwater, the reverse with what you said about the casual jump out of trial of our boy Malachi, because the Hawk stable traditionally, you're going to lose money if you just look at their jump outs. And that's been going back for 20 years, minimum. Whereas Headwater have been looking really sharp in the Flemington jump outs. And then you put two and two together and you think, well, he needs a bit of a CV.
Yeah.
We heard it straight after the race. What was he by a Newmarket out of an open plate winner or whatever?
Yeah, and he's owned by Vinery.
Hashtag breeders.
Yeah.
So to knock off a, was it listed or group 3 or listed?
Listed, yeah.
And at least get that on your CV.
CV, yeah.
So the intent is something you've got to do when you're doing your form. What are they thinking first up? Is there an incentive? Whereas conversely, the quarterback,
Yeah.
his grand finals probably next start. And
In the plate, yeah. Which again, the stable will open about
That's
that,
it,
that
yeah.
we're having this, and then we're going to.
So there was no huge incentive for him to have the quarterback screwed right down.
Yeah.
And so what we often say, and you're big on this, is look at the reasons why market drifts. It's not, the whole world's not a conspiracy theory.
That's right, and when you do your cash straight away and it's something on a drifter, you say, they got me,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then if you go back and look at subjectively and analyse why and this and that, and
That's
you
what
can
your
come up with the
post
answer. If you can find enough, you can come up with the answer.
That's what your post race stuff's critical.
Massive. That's what
I went into that race really wary of Headwater, and the days in the chat room, and I backed it. We had 2 units on it, so we had a small win on the race. But he was a hard horse to trust until you saw the support, even off the jump outs. His form's just all over the shop.
He's got there. There's no margins really. He's won, but and he probably got improvement. And that's it.
was pretty fit.
Definitely fit. Pretty well done. Okay.
And this time,
But I want to say, whoever did orchestrate that go, they did it perfectly. I mean, that was a really well orchestrated go, and the late money was
With Headwater?
yeah.
Okay.
The late money was sensational, and it was
I love class.
very stealthy. Well done. But there was a couple of other ones here on Saturday that were just strange. Like the second bullet thing from 9 o'clock in the morning, someone was trying to have nearly 10,000 on at 244 on Betfair.
Really?
And
before that.
the first time they withdrew it, which happens a lot, and that because no one's there to match it. But then they backed up again at 10 o'clock, and they did get it was either 10 or 14,000 matched at 244, and it just never stopped. It was just the amount of money for second bullet was just relentless.
Supposed to win, wasn't it?
Just
supposed to win.
Yeah,
It should.
never
It
stopped.
was that far. I had that much on it.
The
But I was
race,
surprised that Darren Wiseman never drifted really until extremely late, and I think that was because she didn't parade that well. But
Which one was that?
Candice.
the mare.
Oh,
the WA mare, Real Love.
Oh, Real Love.
Yeah.
She ran well.
She ran well. She held the spot. And I think if Ollie had gone to the front like he should have and made it a test, she would have run a clear second. I think.
Yeah, she's a bowler.
Tashby can't run a strong too.
No.
Well, that's right. That's why it's
He cheated the win.
Cheated to win. Yeah.
Before it was in the run up to race, I think that second bullet race might have been race 4, and I think it was before race 3. There had been 18,000 matched at 2:24.
Was that second bullet?
2:44 on second bullet already, which is you don't see that very often. That sort of amount matched it that far out from an event, and also with Headwater this time last year, he was favourite for the Golden Slipper.
Well, and this is another point about the jump outs. You can actually see the best trainers at work, I'm sure we all do, and you learn from them.
Yeah.
And there was 2 on Saturday, Headwater being one, and it's all extrapolating the figures, and Hetherley being the other.
Yeah.
As 2-year-olds, they were very precocious, the word I know,
Yeah.
but in other words, they went too fucking fast early. Headwater did as a 3-year-old too. When he came back, he was murderously quick. What was that race?
No, he couldn't.
It
was his racing manners were just destroying him.
Exactly, and you heard the Elton Zara team say the same about Heatherley, and Daniel O'Sullivan's 1A on 1B in the Go Forward Club, but you understand from a horseman's point of view, you don't want to waste all your petrol tickets in the wrong part of the race. And in the jump outs with Heatherley prior to her resuming and Headwater prior to him resuming, you saw they were teaching their horses to relax early. So it gave you confidence that the horse was going to build through a prep and be very strong and not do what it did first up last prep. So you actually got insight into the best trainers. Now, you wouldn't want to actually educate the public and give them an opportunity to learn about the best trainers, would you?
Well, there's some good trainers out at Crampton, aren't there, Ralph?
I think so.
Maybe we'd like to learn about what they're doing out there.
What about after last time we had the show and then the Blue Diamond Preview turned up and probably Griffiths had 4 runners or something in a Metropolitan $100,000 race, and no one had seen any of them.
Right, and I'm going to ring the...
Well, to give Robbie credit, his horses tend to be identified in those jump outs.
Yeah.
He's one that will supply the names. It's the other trainers at Cranbourne that are the major issue.
No, well, I take exception to that because it's not up to the Cranbourne trainers to decide.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying.
No. What I'm saying is, Greg Carpenter, is he still called the Executive General Manager Racing? Well, wouldn't it be nice if Greg Carpenter actually started thinking about things from the core business of racing, which is wagering, and stop these things getting through and saying, sorry Cranbourne, this is the industry standard.
All it'd take is a phone call.
There's a maiden tomorrow to kick off the meeting at Sandown, and I won't be betting in it because there's 2 Cranbourne horses.
I would have played that race too. Can't bet. Well, I'm lucky I didn't bet in that. I was going to get heavily involved in the Galaxy Raider race and just sort of dropped off for some reason because I think I had to back too many horses or something. So I'm just getting skinny here, and then sure enough, there's Galaxy Raider that blows them all the first starter. So.
Well, I'm going to ring the Narc Central Klaxon.
Yes.
Because one of your followers, I believe, tweeted, and then you mentioned Dan and I, that they said, well, if they want to run in town, they have to put them up so we can see them, but if they want to run in the bush, we don't have to worry about it.
That'd be a start anyway. So you should publicly trial. If you want to start in town, you should publicly trial.
Dan, I don't think it should matter where it is.
I know, but...
Hashtag self-interest.
Anyway, I
get paid 6 to 4, it doesn't matter whether it's Woolloomoong, Werribee, Wodonga or...
I mean, but let's face it, the Saturday meeting each week in Melbourne is the, or even the Metro meetings, you should not, as Dan says, there shouldn't be a race at Sandown tomorrow with a horse that no one can go and have a look at a jump out at the very minute. It's just terrible.
But then it's not just Cranbourne then, is it? It's also the Weir Stable taking 59 horses to Sonata on a Tuesday to have basically his own private jump outs up there.
Explain it.
What's that?
What's happening with there's a horse with
yesterday, so I was doing the form yesterday and there was Darren Weir, second starter. And like any time I see blinkers associated with the wheels, every siren in my joint goes off. It's like, especially
there is the klaxon.
Blinkers first time, but anyway, this was blinkers off first time. I said, I don't remember having blinkers on. Went and got the video out. They never had blinkers on its first start. So how's that happened? So I put something on Twitter, and John Kelton, who's a very clever bloke from South Australia, I think, came back and said, they come on and they're off the trials and things like that. There's a glitch in the system. If they log it, the system just goes through to Racing Australia and comes through. So he said, go and click on it. So I went and clicked on it. There it was. Jumped out in blinkers, declared sometime in January between its first start and second start, and that had got through to an official gear change on race day. But anyway, as is, I let RBL know, and they fixed it straight away. but there it is. It's had a jump out in blinkers.
At
So that means
Barrabeat or something, or Campbell.
Yeah,
or
you can't
something,
beat it terrain.
By extension, that means the stewards there.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we
The
can't.
barrier certificates and
We
everything
can't
like
have
that.
someone with a camera from JB Hi-Fi and actually make it available. There it is.
Yeah. So that was just another way, but yeah. So.
And a poem.
Not quite.
Yeah.
Because we've got something that Potts picked up
I
the other day.
I enjoy watching Get On. It's a good show. The boys do a good job. I enjoy it. But they've got
Former
a
star of Get On.
yeah, former star.
Ricky Macchiotta, he was one of the originals. Remember that?
He could be launching a comeback.
I enjoyed Rick's contribution. We've got to get him back. They've got a little competition there, last man standing, and they keep records of their bets and everything else. And it's for charity, so I'm not taking the long handle here. But last season, Matt Campbell won it comfortably, and I just want to help Richo, Gator, and Adam out. You're being cheated, boys. Okay, you're letting Matt on paper record his bets as horses he's laid when the market percentage is just massively in his favour. You're giving him too big a head start. So on the weekend it happened to be Onerous who won, but so the bet was for him to lose 160 to win 100, when really if you're going to get that market back to 100%, he should be losing 200 to win 100. Would be close. Like if you rang up Graham and said, "I want to lay Onerous," they wouldn't do it at 260.
No,
I mean, they
that's
wouldn't
right.
do it. But so like just to make it really simple for you boys, just say it was a head-to-head bet, okay? And you, Gator, wanted to back, or Richo, because you're a Carlton supporter, you wanted to back Carlton, and the price was $1.90, okay? So if you wanted to win $100, it'd cost you $111 out of your $500 bank. If they were playing Richmond, say, and Matt Campbell wanted to lay Richmond at $1.90, it only cost him $90 to win 100. So you're giving them like a 21% head start week after week after week and wondering why he's beating you. Stop cheating, Cambo, you're cheating.
Well, I think it's something that Adam Olszewski should talk about when he's hosting most of the
And the
Well, I just would need to find out where I can lay into 70% markets each Thursday. Alright, that'll do us with part one. We'll be back in a moment with part two.